Hi, I'm Melissa Witmer, and I'm the creator of 12 Weeks to Game Time, as well as a lot of other online resources for Ultimate players. And what I want to talk to you today about is the difference between training like an athlete versus training for general fitness. And this is a concept that if you know the difference between these two things, it's going to make a huge difference in your athletic performance and in the amount of fun that you're going to be able to have on the Ultimate field. Now, I've been traveling all over the world teaching players about my strength and fitness philosophies, and I've had conversations with elite players, high school players, and everyone in between. And what I can tell you from these conversations is that like 99% of players either are using or have been using training methods that just aren't as effective as they could be. They're often using training ideas that are based on myth or based on outdated information, or they're trying to adapt programs that are created from other sports. And so I think we can do better. I mean, when you think about it, this is a little bit depressing for our Ultimate community that so many players are using less than optimal training ideas. But this also represents a huge advantage for you if you are willing to understand how to train like an athlete. You have a huge advantage over everyone else. And so that's the kind of advantage that I want to give you in this video and in some videos to come, if you want to come along for the ride. So now before I went all over the world and started teaching people about my training methods, you know, I might have some experience that are similar to yours. Just a couple years ago, I was actually really out of shape, and I was still playing. I was playing in my local summer leagues and winter leagues and things like that, and I was just kind of playing to stay in shape and just kind of playing for fun. There's nothing wrong with that, except for because I was letting myself get out of shape, I found it was a lot less fun to play than it used to be. Okay, so it's not as fun when you can't do athletically on the field the things that you want to do. And so finally I got so fed up with the state of affairs that I decided to start training seriously again. And at that time I also decided to try out for a serious women's team in Philadelphia again. Now, at the time that I decided to try out, like I said, I was really out of shape, and I was 30 years old, and so I just, you know, wasn't in an advantageous position when I made that decision. So what I did is, I knew that my fitness was going to hold me back, so I decided to well, start from scratch and create my own training programs. Now, I had been on serious teams before, and so I knew the kinds of stuff that they usually did. Usually a team sends out workouts that you're supposed to do either before the season or in season. And I knew the kind of things that were normally done. I also had a degree in kinesiology, so you know, I knew a lot about training in general. But again, I just decided to start from scratch and ditch everything that I'd formerly done, and start from scratch thinking about how an athlete trains, and specifically how an athlete should train for Ultimate. Now, living in Lancaster, far away from Philadelphia, I was actually a little bit at an advantage to be able to try new things because I didn't have to worry about what other players were doing, and I could just kind of do my own thing. And truthfully, I wasn't sure that what I was doing was actually going to work because it was different from the things that I'd done before. So it's always a little bit scary to try new things, and you know, I knew I was doing things that were different from what most players were doing, and so it was a little scary. But the story has a happy ending. It worked. It worked far better than I imagined, and when I got to tryouts, I was in better shape than I had been when I was playing seriously in my 20s. So it definitely worked, and it worked far better than I imagined. And it made the game a lot more fun. So, you know, even if you're not trying to play at the elite level, if you can learn to kind of shift yourself in this direction to training more like an athlete, you're just going to have a lot more fun on the field, and you're going to be able to perform better. It's going to make the game more enjoyable for you. So I want to give you a little bit of a taste of what that's like. Now, in this video, I want to talk about two kind of like the philosophical differences a little bit. So let's see. We've got training for aesthetics, versus training for performance. Uh-oh. Performance. It says performance. And we've got volume, emphasis versus an intensity emphasis. could also maybe, instead of intensity, we could also maybe say a quality emphasis. Okay, so now these things don't have to be totally mutually exclusive, but when you're looking at a program or a philosophy that's geared more towards general fitness, there's going to be more of an emphasis on these kind of things, especially if you're looking at programs that are marketed towards the general population. You're going to have more of a focus on aesthetics than you are if you're looking at a program that is based on athletic performance. And we'll talk about how that shows up in kind of 3 areas of training. Now, before we go any further, I want to make it clear, I told you my story about how I just had kind of semi-miraculous improvements in my performance. I want to make it clear that I'm not talking about anything gimmicky or crazy here. I'm just talking about using what the strength and conditioning field already knows about how to train like an athlete. And there are other people that are talking about this information as well. So my friend Tim Borrell has a great YouTube channel with lots of great information on it. There's also other strength and conditioning coaches that are involved in the Ultimate community. There's Alan Jansen in Texas, there's Pat Kelsey in Boston, Jules Murray in England, Jean-Philippe in Montreal. So there's other Ultimate players and strength and conditioning coaches that are also trying to teach the Ultimate community better ways of training. And so this is good news for our sport, of course. But it also means, like, if those people are in your area and you don't know who they are, it's time for you to start paying attention. And since the way that Ultimate players are training is going to be changing, it's up to you to decide whether you want to be ahead of that curve or if you want to be, maybe left behind a little bit. So change is definitely coming to the Ultimate community, and that's a good thing. So the stuff I'm talking about now might be a little new to you, but hopefully, within 5 or 10 years, it's going to be sort of more accepted, and hopefully this will be what 90% of players think about when they think about their training programs. Okay, so moving on. So these differences show up in how you're training. It can show up in strength training is one place where this difference shows up. If you have a person or a program that is focused on general fitness, in their strength training, you're going to see certain things that focus on aesthetics. So this is where, like all those six-pack ab programs, they're focused on aesthetic. This is for the general population. Okay, it's not for, it's not how athletes would train their abs. Athletes train their abdominals for performance, which is a lot different. Okay, it's focusing on resisting rotation, being stable versus developing a six-pack abs. Okay, or if someone's doing a bunch of bicep curls, okay, that person is training for aesthetics. They're not training for performance. This can also show up in programs that maybe aren't focused on aesthetics, but maybe focus on bragging rights. So how much can I bench press? That's bench pressing is a more functional movement, okay, or how much can I squat? Okay, so that's an improvement, but it's still not totally focused on performance. So if you're focused on performance, you're going to be looking more at single leg strength. And again, you're going to be training movements, not muscles, and you're not always going to be focused on bilateral movements like squats, deadlifts, and bench press. So those are just some quick examples of the difference. Okay, second place this is going to show up will be in how you do your conditioning. And so I'll just say sport-specific conditioning. Okay, if someone is training for general fitness, well then they're not doing sport-specific conditioning. Or, a member of the general population is not really interested in any particular sport, and so there's no need for them to do sport-specific conditioning, and that's fine. For general fitness or the general population, the focus on conditioning is more on, varying the workouts, making sure clients are having fun. This is why you see the popularity of boot camp style workouts, because they're fun, there's a lot of variety, and there's a lot of camaraderie in those classes, which is great. But those things are just focused, on general fitness and general conditioning. It's not going to get you the best results when you're looking for athletic performance. When you're doing sport-specific conditioning, you really got to realize that you are what you train to be, and so your conditioning for your sport has to reflect the metabolic demands of the sport, as far as the time work to rest ratio. Okay, how much time you spend moving on the field versus resting should be reflected in your conditioning. Also, kind of the speeds of which you're working, the intensity of which you're working should be reflected in the conditioning. And I'll talk more about that later. Okay, third place this shows up is thinking beyond the workout. Thinking beyond the workout. So, again, when we look at some things that are geared towards the general population and general fitness, it's all about the workout. And a lot of times it's focused on volume. How much can I do in the workout? Clients that are looking for general fitness or aren't as knowledgeable will just think that more is better. Or they'll think that the more sore they are the next day, the better that workout must have been. And if you're looking at athletic performance, that's not going to be your best gauge of how good the workout was. If you're sore the next day and you have some other training schedule, that could definitely interfere with your training rather than help it. So when you're looking more at athletic performance, you're not thinking about just a particular workout and how much you can do, but instead you might be thinking about how much should I do in order to get optimal adaptation. Or you might even think, what is the minimum effective dose of conditioning I can do to keep on improving? But if I'm looking more at like the minimum effective dose, then I'm going to maybe have more longevity as the season goes on, and as I continue to train and continue to go to tournaments, I want to avoid overtraining. So you just can think about you want to think beyond the workout and how it fits into the overall picture of your season. And things like that. So if you're evaluating your own training plan, or if you're looking at some things in the market, or if you're shopping for a personal trainer, these are just some things that you want to keep in mind. If you're looking at a personal trainer, where is their focus, and do they know where your focus is? That your focus is kind of over on this end of the spectrum. And then how do these philosophies show up in these different aspects of training? Okay, so we just kind of touched on these ideas, and I hope that this was educational for you. But I'd like to go in more depth into these ideas and talk about what specifically I want to put in these categories of strength training, sport-specific conditioning, and thinking beyond the workout. But I wanted to keep this video short so that you would watch it. And so if you are interested in going into more detail about these things, what I want you to do is to on this page, there's a box where you can put your email address and click on the submit button or whatever it is. And then what I'm going to do is I'll send you the next video, which is going to go in more detail. Again, I'm going to give you some specific examples of what kind of strength training you would do if you're focused more on athletic performance. And maybe what kind of conditioning you would do if you're focused more on intensity and quality of movement. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd encourage you to share it with your friends. I think the more people understand this difference, the better it is for our community. And the more fun you're going to have on the field as your athletic performance increases. So I really appreciate your attention. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope that I will see you again soon.
Click the link right below this video to get started. And remember, if you decide at any point within the 60 days that this isn't right for you, I'll send you a full refund, no problem. You'll just have my sincere thanks for at least giving it a try. So click the link below, and I'll see you on the other side.